Julia, we've always tried to make sure that you felt welcome, that we took care of you.
You never shy. You never be like my parents. You are not my parents. You are his parents.
Oh no. Once again, family have been invited for therapy, and once again, it's going horribly wrong. You'd have thought that after the disaster that Stacey and Darcy had last week, lessons would be learned, but apparently not. This time, it's Brandon and Julia who are bringing his parents into the mix, but for a couple who are already in serious trouble, this might spell disaster.
She cheated on me, you know that?
What?
What are you talking
Yeah, in Russia.
Hold on.
You bring this up?
Brandon.
Yeah, she cheated on me.
If you want your wife to have a better relationship with your parents, this is probably not the right way to go about it. Throwing her cheating out there like this, in this fashion, is only going to heighten the already existing tension between Julia and Brandon's parents. It's the last thing that they need. But before we get into all the screaming, point scoring and crying, let's rewind to the start. So it's safe to say that Brandon and Julia have had a bumpy journey at the retreat. Between not agreeing on the topic of whether or not they want kids, and not to mention Julia admitting that she kissed her ex whilst with Brandon, things are very tense between them, and that tension becomes immediately obvious when they begin talking to the therapist.
It's been upside down so far.
Yeah?
Been upside down?
I mean, for you, it's down.
You been up?
They can't even say how they are without sniping at each other. Yeah, at this point, they're in a much worse place than when they first entered the resort, and they've got a lot to figure out and not much time left to do it. But the problem is, today's therapy session might just make things even worse.
We are going to do family therapy because me and Betty, Brandon's mom, we are like nuclear war.
That is something that we've seen firsthand, isn't it? Betty and Julia have argued practically since Julia arrived at the States. Now, many of those problems stem from the fact that Brandon can't say no to his mum and can't set boundaries with her. Like Julia tells us, whenever there's a disagreement, Brandon tries to remain in the middle, right? But I want him to pick my side. Now, Brandon doesn't agree with this. He says he always picks Julia's side. She's the most important person in his life. I tell you all the time how important you are to me, Julia, he says. Except that's not exactly true, is it, Brandon?
I always told you that.
In the front of your mom?
I don't want to hurt my mom's feelings, you know?
So his wife is the most important person in his life, but he wants to somehow keep that secret from his mum. It's bizarre, isn't it? Like, I don't get it. Why would that hurt his mum's feelings? Why does Betty get jealous about Julia's role in his life? Like, it's not normal, is it? Now, what this proves is that Brandon seems to care more about his mum's feelings than his wife's. And of course, that is hurting the relationship. Now, it's at this point that Betty and Ron join them on a video call. But within seconds, literally seconds of the conversation beginning, things already begin to get tense.
We care about you and Julia, and we want to be there for both of you.
No, I think you guys care more about only Brandon, not about me.
Julia feels alone. Every little fight that we have, she says, Brandon goes running to his parents and they always pick his side. They never take the time to listen to my version of events. It's always the same story. Unconditional support for their little boy. He's always number one. Now, you can understand why that's so frustrating for her. She's in a foreign country without her friends and family, and she feels like she has no support, that the family unit around her don't support her. She feels ganged up on. Now, the fact of the matter is, I stand firm on this, and I've said it before, people have disagreed with me, but I really don't think it's healthy in any marriage to go running to your parents to bitch about your significant other. That's especially true with this relationship and how tense things already are. The situation clearly upsets Julia, but more than that, it seems to make her really angry.
Julia, we've always tried to make sure that you felt welcome, that we took care of you.
You
just
never
like we did
shy. You
Brandon.
never be
But
like my parents. You are not my parents. You are his parents.
Now, Betty and Ron try to reassure Julia that she's got this all wrong. That isn't the case. We love you like our daughter. We love you just as much as we love Brandon, they say. In fact, you saying these things hurts our feelings. But for as nice as that sentiment might be, actions speak louder than words. And give me a sec because we're going to get to the big contradiction in a second. But before we get there, Julia announces to the group that she has some big, exciting news to share with everyone. It's good news, she says. Only I don't think Brandon agrees.
Without telling anybody. I have a day for interview for my parents to come here for visit.
What?
Wow!
She might think it's good news, but it's pretty clear Brandon doesn't feel the same. Once again, this is Julia keeping secrets from him. Not only did she not tell him that she applied for her parents' visa 2 months ago, but also keep in mind, this isn't the first time that this topic has come up at the retreat. Remember how back at the start they wrote down their worries and fears on a rock?
It says parents.
Okay, what does that mean?
I talking about my parents.
What about your parents?
Help me make them apply together for visa.
Julia wanted her husband's support to bring her parents to the States. Now, given how lonely she feels, given that she feels his parents don't have her back, I understand why she feels this is a good idea. But Brandon wasn't so sure. You see, Julia's parents are divorced, right? And they don't exactly get along well. So he was worried about the practical implications of bringing both of them along to the States. Two people that don't like each other.
It would just be chaos all around. With us being on such shaky ground right now, I think her bringing her parents here would be a disaster for us.
Now, put aside for a second the whole visa and coming from another country part. Purely looking at this from an equality and fairness perspective, given that Brandon's parents are around his house all the time, shouldn't it also be fair that her parents get to come round too? Of course it should. But, and there is a big but, the massive elephant in the room here, that the massive problem is that they talked about this. Julia acted like it was just a suggestion, when all the while she'd actually applied. She was lying while they were discussing it. She was asking for him to help her, for him to support her, fully knowing that she'd already applied. It's yet another secret that's come to light. So I can totally understand why Brandon is getting frustrated and angry.
Again, I'm finding out something else Julia's been keeping from me, and it's something I've been telling her no, and she still goes and does it. It's like everything I tell her doesn't matter.
Once again, this brings to light the terrible communication problems that these two have. He says he told her no, almost as if his word is law, and she disregarded what he said, ignored him, did it anyway, and didn't tell him. Like, these two need to learn how to communicate a lot better. Now, the truth is, if Julia's parents are to come, it's going to be a massive change to both of their lives. They're going to be financially responsible for them. That's a huge decision, right? They should have decided about this together. What Julia's done behind his back, it's not right. It's such a huge decision that she should not have done that in secret. So why did she do it? Well, Julia claims that she didn't tell Brandon because he wasn't supportive. He didn't need to know. But that isn't how marriage works, Julia. And of course, Betty and Ron have something to say about this too.
You didn't share this with him? This is pretty big news.
Guys, it's not about you, it's about your son.
What about me? You didn't include me in this.
I tried
This is another lie.
Yeah, you might be trying to include him now, but it's a bit late for that at this point. You've lied to him for months. Now, getting back to the point of Brandon's parents, I have no issue with what they just said, but where I think there is a bit of a problem is the optics of the situation, like how this now looks. This now looks exactly like what Julia was complaining about, doesn't it? It does kind of look like everyone is now ganging up on her. Again, Brandon's parents have taken his side, and rightly or wrongly, it doesn't matter. They need to keep out of their son's arguments with his wife. They're not doing him any favours by trying to fight his battles for him. In fact, if anything, it's quite the opposite. What it does is it encourages Brandon to use his parents to try and score points against his wife. What do I mean by that? Well, what he says next is the perfect example.
She cheated on me. You know that?
What?
What are you talking
Yeah, in Russia.
hold on.
No, you bring
Brandon,
that up?
Brandon,
Yeah, she cheated on me.
If you're trying to heal the broken relationship between your parents and your wife, this is absolutely not the way to go about it. Look, Brandon is angry, he's sad, he's hopeless, and don't get me wrong, he has a right to tell his parents. I'm not disputing that. Like, they're gonna find out about it anyway. It's been filmed, it's on TV, right? But it's the way he tells them. He's telling them like this in the middle of a fight to score points and try and hurt Julia. He's doing it as a form of revenge. And then, just to make matters even worse, without even waiting to see the effect of the bombshell that he just dropped, like what the reaction will be, Brandon just storms off.
You always blame me for every single thing.
What are you talking? Brandon, come back. You can't make things better by walking away.
Ron is right, but the problem is, it's too late. Brandon's already gone. He can't hear what's being said. Now, the truth is, as Ron says, if he wants to try and fix this marriage, he needs to stay and face the music. But that's the problem. Fight. Right now, Brandon doesn't look like he has much fight left in him. Every day that passes at this resort, he looks like he wants to be in this marriage less and less. Now, it's left to the therapist to chase after Brandon and ask him to come back.
I want something to come out of this for you.
I don't know what's more lies are gonna come out of this. I don't want any more to come out of this.
Yeah.
I'm tired of finding out lies.
Brandon says that he's tired of being hurt. I've tried to forgive Julia. I've tried to get past learning that she cheated on me, he says. But every time I feel like I'm starting to heal, she just confesses more lies. She hurts me even more. I can't see a way forward, he says. But for as much as Brandon is hurt, Julia doesn't really seem to regret her actions. It's not me, she says. It's him. This is his problem.
That's why we come here to this therapy. And I say, open for me. He just shut down every single time.
But you don't hurt our son. You died him, please.
Brandon pointed out Julia's flaws, and now Julia is trying to point out Brandon's. He's not open, she claims. Now, I have a problem with this. That's easy for her to say, right? But she's not the one getting hurt. Julia seems to have adopted this rather strange attitude that whatever she admits during therapy, however much hurt she causes her husband, all the secrets that are now finally coming out, he needs to just accept it and move on. He needs to forgive her. But it doesn't work like that. You don't just get a free pass because it's therapy. You need to, for a start, you need to start by being regretful and remorseful, which she isn't. But with Brandon and the therapist out of the room, Ron and Betty make one last plea to Julia.
This is like so
tearing us
apart because there was something special between you two.
Please don't give up on this.
Notice the past tense there. There was something special. They may have once had something special, but so much has changed since then. Brandon seems like he's giving up, and as for Julia, she seems incapable of apologising and actually empathising with the pain she's caused her husband. Honestly, right now, I'm not sure if what they had in the past is enough to carry them into a future together.